really do. You have a lot of influence. Whenever you first come into the architecture discipline, that can be quite intimidating. But in a company like Allstate, a larger company, you'll tend to have a very solid architecture practice, where architects have worked together to create policies and principles, and then those more technical architecture disciplines, they will have created their own standards. So the security guys, the data guys, the integration guys, people are there to help you. And you may look at this and you might think, well, is that like me slipping on a pair of handcuffs and people are going to tell me what to do and I can't really go and do what it is I want? Well, you're actually a contributor to those policies and principles. So if something's not working for you, if you think it's too restrictive, you have a voice. You can actually go to your fellow architects. You can work with them to try and change things. So, there is support there, there's help there. You're not on your own, certainly in the early days. And, you can actually contribute to that wider, rule book, I guess. So solution architecture is really about two things. It's about design and delivery. So, and as I mentioned before, it's back to the business problem. You will have business stakeholders. In your design conversations, you'll find yourself talking to business people. You'll find yourself talking to people on the delivery team, so engineers, developers. You'll find yourself sometimes talking to server guys, different architects, so more specialist architects. You need to be able to go and converse with those people. You need to understand the problem. You need to understand the technology landscape so that you are fully aware of any constraints, any barriers that might impede a solution that you're coming out with. Then you come up with your high-level conceptual design, and that doesn't mean that you're done. So there's always a review process, and that process, again, it's there to help you and to help you grow and develop, because there may have been something in your design that you hadn't considered. So, the people who will be involved in that review process tend to be your fellow architects, again, sometimes delivery people, sometimes business people. But the idea is to make sure that the solution, the approach, is as robust and as sound as it possibly can be. So it's not a combative thing, it's not an antagonistic process. It's actually very much a conversation, and it's there to help you. So once your design has, once there's broad alignment on your design, that's actually good for you, because that means that your design it's got legitimacy. There are people there who are going to be supporting you as you bring that design to the delivery teams and work with the delivery teams on that. So, it's not just a matter of creating a design and then parking it and your job is done. That's not it at all. You have to work closely with delivery, and you need to make sure that, delivery people understand the concept, understand where you're going with it. And you also really need to make sure that the design as delivered is living into, the standards. So whether architecture standards, even the own individual team's coding standards, you need to make sure that everything is getting done to a certain standard, because, again, as the architect, you're kind of responsible for the overall technology success. People will always come to you if something's gone wrong with something that you designed. So it's really up to you to work as closely with people as you can to make it good. So you don't always have a free rein with your design. So in an industry like insurance, where we are, very often there are legal obligations, compliance obligations that we have to live into. Funding is always a big one, particularly with the business partners I work. Very often, they want the sun, the moon, and the stars, but they've got the price of a bus ticket to Carrickfergus. It's very often the funding doesn't match the dream, so you have to work with that as well. The delivery organisation, again, they may not have the people or the skills to deliver the design as you want it, so there's a negotiation there. And then technology, so you need to be thinking performance, capacity, all those kind of non-functional factors, because again, there's no point in your design falling over at the first hurdle, if you can't handle more than, 10,000 transactions in an hour. Well, and you need to really service in 100,000. There's no point. So, you need to think of all these things as part of your design. And a company, it tends to be that larger companies, like Allstate, will have a very complex technology landscape. Allstate is it's a long-standing insurance company. It has a very federated architecture. So different parts of the business over time have developed their own solutions. So you see a lot of replication and duplication. And that is the landscape that you have to work in. And it can be quite a challenge to try and deliver simplicity out of complexity. But again, that tends to be one of the targets of your job. So soft skills in architecture. It really is all about people. So you need to be able to work with business people, with leadership, with delivery people, with your fellow architects. And all of those people tend to have different perspectives. They tend to have different opinions, different abilities to even understand what it is you're trying to tell them. So, listening and observation. So whether you're talking to business people or technical people, you need to listen. You need to really get what people are trying to tell you. Broad thinking. So whether it's analytic thinking, whether it's creative thinking, it's very rarely that there's a linear approach to a solution to a problem. Quite often you have to go round the houses. I called it flexibility as well, because sometimes you will run into objections to the approach you've taken. And you need to know when to bend, and you need to know when to hold your ground and stick with it. So you learn to do that. And then storytelling, again, you need to be able to work with that kind of a different audience, to make sure that they're really getting what you're trying to tell them. Technology skills. This is the thing I think puts a lot of people off architecture. Well, I think it's a combination of, is it a technology role? Is it a business role? What is it? It's both. So technology skills, very often it's broad rather than deep. It's a lot about patterns. And I really strongly feel this. You can't ever know everything about everything. It's not possible. People in architecture sometimes put themselves under really ridiculous pressure. But you can't. But what you don't know, you can learn. Whether through networks, inside your company, outside your company, the internet. The world is awash with information. So it's not hard to get the knowledge that you lack. You can learn. And job satisfaction. So you end up with a much broader view of the company you're working in. You become a key contributor to strategy and roadmap. You'll work with it. Your network will grow. It will grow a lot because you will be dependent on people to get you the information you need to do your job well. So your network within your company will grow. No 2 days are the same. It opens up opportunities, and it actually means that you can make a real difference. You stop being somebody maybe who's following orders all the time, and you get to be in the conversation, driving the conversation, working with people. So I hope that's kind of shed a little bit of light on the architecture role. I don't know if I've got time for questions, but if anyone wants to come and talk to me over the course of the day, I'd be delighted, because we really would like to see more women in this space. It's something where, traditionally we haven't seen a lot of women, and, I think that, a little bit more diversity in the architecture space would be good for us all. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Brenda. That was great.